A near-fatal road accident that occurred in the nation's capital yesterday between a gendarmerie truck and a minibus. The collision happened when the two cars coming from opposite directions clashed while on high speed. According to reports, all the four injured persons were gendarmerie officers. The bombing of the vehicle of the divisional officer of Ekondotiti on Wednesday, 2nd March, by alleged separatists has received severe condemnation from Cameroonians. Reacting to the incident, activists and politicians in Cameroon have urged the government to quickly find effective ways to end the ongoing Anglophone crisis in the two restive regions of the country. Join Gong with details.
The population of Ekondotiti, Anglophones and Cameroonians in general have been in total consternation after separatists blew off the vehicle of local administrative authorities in the subdivision a little after midday on Wednesday, March 2, 2022. The divisional officer for Ekondotiti, Timothy Aboloa, the mayor and 5 others were killed after their vehicle stepped on an improvised explosive device planted by suspected separatists. The Ekondotiti incident has, however, come under heavy condemnation from Cameroonian politicians and human rights activists.
The deaths of the entire team that was killed yesterday in Ekondotiti is, of course, extremely shocking for the nation. At the level of the Cameroon People's Party, at the level of Stand Up for Cameroon, for the past 5 years, we have said the fight should be non-violent, that any issues which are to be brought on the table, any causes which we are standing for, we should do so in a non-violent manner.
All what we get from the government is they say everything has returned to normalcy, but this time around it has targeted a top government official. I'm talking on the representative of the head of state, and they keep on telling us that everything has returned to normalcy. You see that the crisis has now taken a different turn. We don't even know what is happening. People now use the crisis to settle their personal scores, others use it to make money, others use it. So it's a whole chain that as of now everything is just in a very funny manner. So we are still calling on the government, because the government still has the responsibility, the yam and the knife, to still open for dialogue.
Agbobala, leader of the Center of Human Rights and Democracy for Africa, took to his Twitter page, insisting that the divisional officer is a civilian, a known member of state armed forces, and must be protected at all times. Meanwhile, Cabral Libi, the president of the Cameroon Party for National Reconciliation, while condemning the act, urged government to consider effective ways to end the suicidal crisis, including dialogue, liberation of prisoners, and a peace accord.
We want to say to the government of Cameroon, we have said for the past 5 years, and I was shocked to see the communique of the government of Cameroon with regard to the current invasion of Ukraine, that the government of Cameroon will be calling on parties to cease hostilities and open talks. So the government of Cameroon knows that conflict is resolved by the cessation of hostilities and the opening of talks. We would ask the government of Cameroon to apply the advice it is giving to Russia and Ukraine to itself.
Ekondotiti has consecutively been in the news for matters concerning the Anglophone crisis. On the 15th of June last year, 6 government delegates from Mundemba traveling by land to Ekondotiti were abducted by armed separatists. One of them was later murdered, and the 5 others, till date, are still in captivity with their whereabouts unknown. Later in November 2021, 4 students and a teacher were killed during the crossfire at Government Bilingual High School, Ekondotiti. Cameroonians were yet to recover from these killings before once again waking up to yesterday's bomb explosion. Meantime, the death toll has risen to 7, implying that almost all the occupants of the vehicle eventually died.
Onto something else, some teachers in Douala, the economic capital city of Cameroon, have prolonged the strike dubbed Death Chalk. At Lycée de Aqua, that's Lycée de Aqua North, teachers could be found standing with their placards and complaining bitterly about the miserable treatment from the government. The strike action entered week 2. Let's get more from Nora Kebi, who went down on the streets of Douala and specifically at Lycée de Aqua to get the reactions of these teachers.
The Death Chalk strike action, which started last week by a teachers' movement called OTS, decrying the miserable conditions they face, has continued this week. Secondary education teachers in some schools in the economic capital, Douala, have this week prolonged their strike action to denounce the deplorable working conditions. At the Lycée d'Aqua North today, March 3, some teachers were seen out of the classroom brandishing placards and expressing their grievances.
What we are fighting for is to arrange or let everyone have the same right. We are fighting for a public right which is open for all the other services. In the other ministry, like Ministry of Defense, Ministry of Post and Telecommunications, they have their documents which are forward right without any position, and they don't ask you any percentage to forward your document. But in our own ministry, every day before you start any engagement on each document, they will ask you a percentage to pay. They are asking for 20%, 30%, 25%. I have, for instance, the recovery of my salary, which is almost 700,000, and in that 700,000, they're asking for 30%. How much am I going to get at the end?
They maintain that the strike action will go on until their conditions are looked into by the state.
When you are at home with your child and the child come and ask for the fees that they said later they to pay the fees on Friday, that is on Monday. Now, when you do not react, it simply means that the student or the child should not go to school again anymore. We have kids here. We have kids in this school that we are paying their fee, taking care of everything there. So now, you are asking me to know if they don't ameliorate my condition to permit to this child or to all those students to have a good education, a good way, good means to go to school. What do I do? Should I continue to suffer in suffering without any amelioration?
Still in Douala, at the government bilingual high school in Dokpasi, students equally brandish placards, raising their voices on the assembly ground, "Pay our teachers." Students across the country have been missing out on lectures since the start of the strike action, and the government is yet to respond positively to the plight of the disgruntled teachers. The strike operation has hampered the education sector as classes have been brought to a halt. However, despite the disruption of lectures, the principal of Lycée d'Aqua North, Mr. Olivier Alima Mbombo, has managed the situation in his establishment, and mock exams are currently going on with the help of PTA teachers.
This situation, we have tried to solve this problem with the SS and teachers who are paid by the PTA.
It should be noted that the teachers have started evaluating students, giving everyone 20 on 20 as a sign of protest.
There have been reports on the increased rate of theft in Yaoundé, the capital city of Cameroon. Since January, a majority of Yaoundé city dwellers have been crying foul as they keep falling prey. Colette Loom caught up with some victims of the act who expressed their feelings.
Yaoundé inhabitants have since the beginning of this year plagued with an increased theft. There has been foul cry in all angles, with citizens lamenting of losing one asset or another in the cold hands of thieves and armed robbers. They are bent on using all kinds of tactics. Some are specialized in stealing portable phones, some cars, goods and money from petty traders and shops. Meanwhile, some of these thieves venture via Momo and Orange Money services.
January this year, I was a victim where a message came to my phone that I just received 125,000 funds. At the same time, somebody was calling to say, oh, I just mistakenly transferred money to your phone. And when I heard of that, I got a filter from my phone. So I had to transfer the 125,000 the person talked off back to the person's phone. Shortly after I discovered, oh, there was something, there was a mismatch somewhere. I called the person back, oh, that what you said was not true. Said, oh, no problem, come to Wrong Point Damas or give back your money. I took my vehicle around there. He said, no, I just left for Tam weekend. I would left and went there. He made me move around the whole town after the robbery.
This has expanded to other tricks in getting quick cash and assets, which a person has taken years to toil and labor for just to lose in the twinkle of an eye.
I have a sister who of recent too was robbed of her phone, her bag. Yet in Yaoundé, he came from traveled all the way from Bavsam to Yaoundé here. We got to Tongolo there, bought the taxi, and the taxi, there were 4 people in the taxi. After a short while in the taxi, the first people dropped. After another short distance again, another person dropped. A lone person that was there removed the knife and said, if you don't give me your bag and everything you have now, your name is death. For the fear of being stabbed, you have to give the phone and the bag and everything.
Victims of theft in the Central region keep increasing every day.
Increased theft in Yaoundé. There's an increased theft because many youths are jobless. State of insecurity, the citizens are not protected. Because they are defenseless. It's not stable. But even in the markets, people are grazed and their items collected.
However, citizens can escape this phenomenon since it actually brings down the morals and affects a lot of people economically. Last week, I went and parked my car in front of one office and I went inside to do something. Then I heard an alarm. Then, after a while, I came out and I checked. I discovered some guys about entering the car to go with him. Everyone exempted from the act of theft is therefore called upon to be more vigilant.
The Cameroon Baptist Convention Health Services CBCHS has donated an Everest V4 Braille embosser to facilitate large-scale production of GCE exam questions. The equipment, worth 7.5 million francs CFA, falls in line with their commitment to support the GCE board in mainstreaming disability in the conduct of exams. Charles Kebwa with details.
The Cameroon Baptist Convention CBC Health Services, within the framework of collaboration with the GCE board, donated to the board an Everest V4 Braille embosser to facilitate large-scale production of the GCE exam questions for candidates with visual impairment writing the GCE exam. The Everest V4 Braille embosser, worth over 7.5 million, handing over the equipment, the director of the Cameroon Baptist Health Services, Professor T. Pius Mufi, appreciated the registrar for his reasonable accommodation measures in the conduct of exams, including but not limited stroke provision, additional time to candidates with disabilities, and the creation of special centers in some regions of the country, set in line with the Cameroon Baptist Convention Health Services commitment to support the GCE board in mainstreaming disability in the conduct of exams.
And very relevant because children that are living with various forms of disabilities, especially those that do not see, they need to have good access to GCE questions, answer them appropriately, and they should be corrected to reflect the level of their knowledge so that they can benefit from the education that is offered in Cameroon.
He promised they will facilitate the GCE board, given the donation and advanced technology to facilitate exam preparation by the board is modern.
The embosser we have given now is more modern. It's modern, and more than the one that the GCE board has been using. And we believe that with modern technology, you can have better output of what you do. And therefore, it will braille faster. You also have higher quality of the material that is brailled, and it will help the students at least to have access to good material to answer when they go to the GCE examination.
Dang Ako Dominique, GCE board registrar, appreciated the donation, said it's a challenge now for those without disability. He encouraged the CBHS administration to bring more, and why not put up structure at the GCE board premises that will accommodate the physically challenged have as their library. He promised to make good use of the equipment donated. Donating these machines, the CBHS has put at the disposal of the GCE board its technical team to provide orientation and effective use and management of this equipment.
Even in the future, if there's any breakdown, we'll be at the disposal of the board to do maintenance just in time. So we expect to bring more capacity to use. In addition to the donation we've seen today, we are going to train staff.
It should be noted, in the last quarter of 2021, in collaboration with the General Certificate of Education Board, the Cameroon Baptist Convention Health Services led an investigation to further understand the challenges of organizing inclusive end-of-course examination by the board.
Cameroon's Minister of Territorial Administration, Paul Atanganji, has handed over the keys of 40 service cars to senior divisional officers and divisional officers in Cameroon. The keys were handed over at the esplanade of the Yaoundé City Council on Wednesday, March 2nd, 2022. Let's get the details with Fon Quinta in this report.
To ease the mobility of senior divisional officers and divisional officers in their respective areas of command, Territorial Administration Minister Paul Atanganji has handed over the keys of 40 service vehicles to these authorities.
Ladies and gentlemen, the head of State His Excellency President Paul has attributed 40 new vehicles to administrative authorities, senior divisional officers and divisional officers. It's a very important event if we take into consideration the cost of these vehicles at a time when the global finance is faced with negative impact of COVID-19. We sincerely thank the head of state, His Excellency President Paul, for this great gesture, aimed at facilitating or better still improving the working conditions of administrative authorities.
The cars that constitute pickup trucks, Corolla cars and four-wheel drive Fortuners were distributed at the esplanade of the Yaoundé City Council Wednesday, March 2nd, 2022 on instructions of the head of state. Handing over the gift, the civil administrators were urged to handle the cars with care, giving them tips on maintenance.
Before officially handling the vehicles, I thought it necessary to say a word on maintenance. How do we service a new car? Is what I have to explain. It's very important to know that after 1,500 kilometers, you have to service your car. And this is done freely in the different workshops of community. Then after 4,000 kilometers, you have to do the second division to service the car, which basically you have to change the engine oil, air filter, oil filter, and other small parts. Then after this, the service becomes a routine, because when you have your first control, there's a clear indication. If you did that, for instance, 4,000 kilometers, they will tell you that the next servicing will be at 8,000 kilometers or 3,000 kilometers. And you have to respect it. And if you respect it, then the car can last for long.
The beneficiaries, who saluted the gesture of the head of state, promised to use the gift judiciously.
You know that we have the duty to maintain peace and order in our different units, and we cannot do it in the best manner without a means that can increase our mobility in the ground. So we are very happy to receive this important gift, this important material that will increase our mobility in the ground, as I have said, and permit us to be at the level of our duty.
The keys of the brand new vehicles were handed over to beneficiaries after a test drive by Territorial Administration Boss Paul Athanganji.
The Nsah community in Fako, southwest region of Cameroon, organized a cultural festival recently. The cultural jamboree, which began with a Thanksgiving Mass at Catholic Church Mutengene, was celebrated under the theme, Culture, Our Only Hope. Catherine Ekongwe now tells us more.
The ongoing social and political crisis affecting the two English-speaking regions of Cameroon for over 5 years now has had far-reaching consequences on most social, cultural and economic activities. In order to forge ahead and sustain a bright future and successful transfer of cultural values from one generation to the other, the Nsah community in Fako division organized a cultural jamboree to bring together sons and daughters of Nsah.
We decided to organize this day in order to showcase our culture. You know, most of these activities are because nowadays it's so difficult to our villages. Our children for some years have not been able to go back home to learn their culture, to know what it takes, what it obtains in the Nsah culture. So we decided to organize so that our children should also be part of this, our cultural festival, and learn what happens when a Nsah man goes out in a jamboree, when a Nsah man has a cultural week, when a Nsah man has a cultural day. So it is for us to showcase our culture.
This festival, which has as theme Culture Our Only Hope, began with a Thanksgiving Mass at the Catholic Church Mutengene, wherein natives of Nsah praised and thanked God for their existence in Nsah. The sons and daughters of Nsah also came out in their different colorful traditional regalia to showcase their different traditional dances. It was a satisfying activity as the onlookers cheered and danced to the rhythm of the drums and music. The chairman of the organizing committee also reiterated that culture is the only hope and means through which the Nsah people can be united.
This festival today, first of all, will benefit our children, as I said before, because they are exposed to so many dances, so many dance groups that will be performing today. The children themselves will be able to show their talent, their skills, as far as cultural dances are concerned. So as they grow up, they will continue and also bring the Nsah culture to the limelight.
Hence, all activities which are geared towards promoting and preserving Cameroonian cultures are encouraged as they stand as a stepping stone for a successful transfer of cultural values from one generation to the other, and also a means to sustain national security and unity.
Welcome back. In news out of the country, a Cameroonian man called Antonio, who has lived in Ukraine for a long time, has decided to join the Ukrainian army to fight Russia. Antonio's choice of volunteering for the Ukrainian army has been seen as brave by some social media users. World leaders have accused Russia of endangering the safety of an entire continent after its forces attacked a nuclear power plant and sparked a fire. Reports say a fire broke out at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant, the largest in Europe, after what Ukrainian authorities said was an attack by Russia. Ukraine's emergency services managed to extinguish the fire, which broke out at a building outside the plant's perimeter, but authorities say that Russian troops have seized the plant. The president of Uganda, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, has met with Russian ambassador Vladimir Semyvolos to discuss issues of mutual interest. No further details were given by the Ugandan leader, but it came a day after Uganda abstained from voting for a UN resolution condemning Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Note that 16 other African countries, including Algeria, Angola, Mali, and South Africa, abstained from the vote. Burkina Faso's military junta has appointed Albert Ouedraogo as the new transitional prime minister as per a decree from the military leader on Thursday, March 3, 2022. Ouedraogo, a 52-year-old economist, was said to have experience in management of public administrations, development projects, and private companies. He will form a government whose main task will be to secure the country from an Islamist insurgency that has killed thousands and forced at least 1.5 million people to flee their homes. That concludes Prime Flash on My Media Prime Television. With me, Eileen Nsah. The news was produced by Desmond Ngwa. Stay tuned to more amazing programs on My Media Prime Television. We are having a special program with Kum Leonard and his crew, and at 6:30 p.m. Prime Flash will be us. Stay connected. Have a blessed day.